welcome back to A Little Bit Forward. This is the show where we don't propose to have answers, but we do try and have interesting questions. And the question I want to explore with you today is about how is it that we create the shared understanding we need to operate at work and in the world? And a really beautiful way of illustrating this challenge is this ancient proverb around the elephant and the blind men. Of course, this is about 2,500 years ago, and so I think all the parables did involve men. In this parable, which I'm sure we've probably heard versions of at some point in our life, there's a series of blind men and they chance upon an elephant. And the first one feels the leg of the elephant and goes, it's a trunk, it's like a tree trunk. And the second one finds the trunk of the elephant and goes, actually, no, it seems a lot like a snake to me. Another chances upon the tail and is very sure that what he has found is a piece of rope. And finally, the last one finds a tusk and thinks it's a spear. There's different versions of the parable. In some of them, there is gross disagreement and that leads to a fight between the blind men. In other versions of it is a story about how through conversation and collaboration, they actually seek a shared understanding of what this thing it is that they have found. This is a really beautiful way and a well understood way, I think, of exploring this idea of shared understanding. And I think it's a challenge that we deal with in the modern workplace in a way that we haven't previously experienced. And this lack of shared understanding, I think, can be very detrimental because without that shared understanding, we have misunderstanding. That misunderstanding can ultimately lead to mistrust and actually break down and negatively impact the effectiveness we have in the workplace. I think this is a particular problem now because, over the last perhaps decade or two, we've seen this splintering in terms of the sources of information we have available to us. There used to be a handful of newspapers and 3 free-to-air TV channels. And now we can access our information from so many different avenues, we can't be sure that the other people around us are hearing and seeing the same things that we are. On top of that, some of the ways that we would create that shared understanding inside organizations has also been taken away from us. We talk about the concept of the water cooler conversation and this idea of the place that we gather around inside the workplace where we just shared stories with each other, but with every story we share, we also build a little bit of trust. We build some shared language. We start to create connections between what we see in the world and what others see. And I think that this is starting to dissipate. We all live in this world that's increasingly dynamic, greater turnover in teams. We have more diverse perspectives, echo chambers of information. We don't spend as much time with our colleagues as we used to. And so suddenly the ability to create shared understanding by chance has been dramatically reduced. As I said, I think this is actually having a really negative impact in our workplaces because we don't have that shared understanding. How is it that we can actually work efficiently and effectively together? I actually believe now more than ever, rather than leaving shared understanding to chance, this is something that we actually make an intentional intervention with. How do we shape the space and create the opportunities for shared understanding to be created rather than just expecting for it to be voluntarily or randomly emerge? And so I suppose this is the question I'd like to challenge you with in this episode. Who are the people that it would actually be super advantageous for you to have a deep level of shared understanding with? Who are the people you work with, potentially the people that you live with, where that level of shared understanding is really required for you to operate well together? And then secondly, do you have it? Is this already an existing space where the level of shared understanding is super high, or is it something that these kind of misunderstandings, these kind of conflicts are starting to emerge or already exist? And finally, if that's the case, what could you do to create it? What could you do to create a space and allow shared understanding to emerge and grow between you? Now, as is the nature with these episodes, this is very short. There's now going to be a 5-minute block of silence that follows this episode. And that time has been created for you to ruminate on these questions that we've just shared. Of course, if you're so busy and you don't have time, you're welcome to fast forward to the next episode of what is it you're listening to. But otherwise, please take a moment to think about who are the people that you need to have shared understanding with, and what is it that you can do to create it.